Hey, welcome back. It's Jason Woltry here. According to a brand new report that was just released this morning from the National Association of Realtors, home sales dropped yet again, but home prices reached another all-time record high. Lots to cover in today's housing market update, so if you get any value out of this video whatsoever, then please hit the like button. I greatly appreciate that. Also consider subscribing as well because I post housing market updates so you can make a more informed decision about whether you should buy or sell a house. With that said, let's begin today's video. Sales of existing houses in May dropped by 0.9% from April. This is now the fourth straight month of declining home sales. Out of the four major regions in the US, only one region recorded an increase of home sales from the previous month. In addition, home sales were up almost 45% from 1 year ago, but that's really not a very good comparison, and it's hardly worth mentioning given the fact that our housing market was more or less on shutdown in March to most of April of last year. This caused home sales in May of 2020 to drop greatly, given the fact that it takes approximately 30 days from when the home seller accepts an offer from a home buyer and when the house ultimately closes escrow or when the sale is finalized. So in other words, it's no big surprise that home sales increased greatly this year compared to May of last year. Lawrence Yun, who's NAR's chief economist, stated the following: home sales fell moderately in May and are now approaching pre-pandemic activity. Lack of inventory continues to be the overwhelming factor holding back home sales, but falling affordability is simply squeezing some first-time home buyers out of the market. So let's have a closer look at this because I noticed that housing inventory has been increasing for the past 3 months. So in other words, it's been increasing ever since February of this year. In addition, inventory actually increased 7% from April to May of this year. So shouldn't there be more home sales if we have more housing inventory? However, historically speaking, he's absolutely right because housing inventory is still very low. There were approximately 500,000 houses for sale as of the end of May of this year. But when you compare that to May of 2019, there were almost 1.3 million homes for sale. On top of this, unsold inventory sits at a 2.5 month supply. What this means is that at the current sales pace, all houses listed for sale right now would be sold in 2.5 months. We would need approximately a 4 to 6 month housing supply in order to have a more balanced real estate market between home buyers and home sellers, and not 2.5 months. In other words, when the housing supply is less than 4 months, then home sellers definitely have the upper hand like they do right now. In contrast, when the housing supply is more than 6 months, then home buyers have regained negotiating power. Also, housing affordability has gotten worse, and that has decreased the number of sales from first-time homebuyers. According to NAR, first-time homebuyers were responsible for 31% of all sales in May. That was unchanged from April, but down from 34% in May 2020. As I've been saying for months, housing affordability is getting worse and worse. So as home prices continue to skyrocket, more and more home buyers are giving up or simply getting priced out. The National Association of Realtors actually posted about this just a few days ago, and I found this very interesting and I want to share this with you. So according to them, affordability declined in April compared to March as the median family incomes actually declined by 1%, while the monthly mortgage payment increased by 16.1%. They reported that the average mortgage payment increased $164 per month compared to 1 year ago. This increase was mainly due to the fact that home prices have increased by almost 20% from 1 year ago. In other words, the slight dip of mortgage interest rates was not enough to help affordability given how fast home prices have been increasing. This has caused the affordability of housing to reach its lowest level by far in over 1 year. Affordability was also down in all 4 major regions in the US last month. The Midwest had the biggest decline of 12%, followed by the Northeast and then the South region. The West experienced the smallest decrease of 8.2%. And speaking of housing costs, home prices in May reached another all-time record high. The median home price in the US reached $350,000. 1 year ago, it was only $283,000 for the median priced house. And by the way, this is something you should be aware of, and it's not mentioned in this report here, but because I track these numbers on a monthly basis and I report these to you guys, I noticed this is the third straight month of home price records being broken. For example, in February, the record was tied with October when the median high home price reached $313,000. Then in March of this year, another record was broken when prices reached $329,000. Then in April, home prices reached another all-time record high of $342,000. And now another record was broken for May when the median price reached just over $350,000. Part of the reason why home prices are breaking records is due to the fact that we've had a huge increase of home sales in the higher end market. So check this out, and you know that I support my claims with data, right? But check this out. This is the percent change in home sales by price range from 1 year ago. So while sales of homes of less than $250,000 have actually decreased, the number of sales for over $500,000 have absolutely exploded. So the number of homes that sold for over $1 million increased by a whopping 244%. Houses are also selling very quickly as well. So in May, it only took 17 days to sell a house on average, which was the same time period in April. And get this, 89% of homes sold in May were on the market for less than 1 month. A lot of you guys have been asking what's going on with investor purchases and cash sales. This is, of course, because this is kind of stealing the headlines right now. But let's have a look at the actual data we have in hand to have a more closer look at this. NAR reported that investors or second home buyers purchased 17% of the houses in May, and that was even with April, but up slightly from 14% in May 2020. So all cash sales accounted for 23% of all transactions in May. That was down from 25% in April and up 17% in May 2020. So in other words, 1 out of every 4 houses that sold in America in May were sold to a cash buyer. Every market is different though, right? So in Sacramento, where I'm a realtor, only about 13% of all sales are purchased with cash. The vast majority of buyers out there in my area are using conventional loans to buy houses. In contrast, other areas may experience a much higher share of cash sales. So for example, I found this for you guys. So Realtor.com reported that in Reno, Nevada, they saw cash sales 51% of the time in January and February of this year. Okay, let's go back to this report here and talk about how each region of the US fared, because there's some pretty big differences here. Existing home sales in the Northeast fell by 1.4% in May. The median price there was $384,000, and that's up 17% from May 2020. So home sales in the Midwest grew by 1.6% in May. The median high home price there was $268,000, which is an 18% increase from May 2020. Existing home sales in the South decreased by 0.4%. The median price there was $299,000, which is a 23% jump from 1 year ago. And lastly, home sales in the West declined by 4% from the prior month, but there was a 62% surge in sales from 1 year ago. The median price there was $506,000, and that's up from 24% in May 2020. Okay, changing gears slightly. If you follow the channel, you know I'm all about reporting leading indicators of our housing market so we can get an indication about where our housing market is headed. These are looking at things like pending home sales, housing inventory, and mortgage application numbers, for example. I mention this because the Mortgage Bankers Association, or the MBA, posted last week that total mortgage applications increased 4.2% from 1 week ago. This includes mortgage applications for refis and purchase applications. Because mortgage applications for refis is simply tied to mortgage interest rates, it's a better idea to have a look at mortgage applications for home purchases to gauge where our housing market is headed. So for example, when looking at mortgage applications for home purchases, that index increased 11% from the previous week. However, it decreased 17% from 1 year ago, but let's be careful when comparing this year to last year. This time last year, our housing market was more or less a feeding frenzy as the economy was opening up and people had new work-at-home arrangements, plus mortgage interest rates dropped as well. Therefore, it makes sense that mortgage application numbers decreased on a year-over-year basis because 2020 was definitely an abnormal year, to say the least. If you enjoyed watching this video, and if you got any value out of this video, then please hit the like button. I greatly appreciate that. And also consider subscribing as well. You also can follow me on Instagram. I'm Sacramento Realtor. Hope you have an awesome day and I look forward to seeing you on the next video.